We are living in unique times, brothers and sisters, with a lot of trials and tribulations, but also there are many opportunities for change. I encourage you to explore your own cultural stories. Get involved in this preservation efforts. Be curious. Explore what is relevant to your history.
Every time I re-listen to this episode, it really come to me as a confirmation that we are supposed to be doing this. Now, this is what I mean. When I came to Verona in the August of 2004, actually, this is how I started this research project that led to the 5-part book series, The Storytelling Mastering, and therefore the episode that we are doing today on LinkedIn. What I was simply looking for at the time was to maybe find books or anything that can tell me about the experiences of other people like me in this city. Because it's pretty natural for me that I will have some questions because I am coming from Nigeria and I know how life is in Nigeria. And I'm in Italy. I can see that life is not the same. I can see that the people that I'm seeing around are not the same. So it is natural for me, like I just have curiosity, like, but how do people really live here? You can start from the weather. They look at the people. They look at the question they ask you. It is impossible that you don't ask questions.
Who you are, where you're from, and who you have left behind, because they are the foundation of who you have become, and who you are becoming, and will always be the reference point of anything that you have achieved in life. Always be the reference point, because if they had suppressed you or taken you out of commission, you would not be present to even look back, even though you are moving forward.
Hello and thank you for checking out this video. I'm Obehi, the host of the African Diaspora Storytelling Series. Every 2 weeks, we meet up on LinkedIn to talk about different ways we can leverage the power of storytelling as people of African descent. Now, this is it. We are uniting the millions of Africans in the diaspora through the power of our story. It does sound like what you are interested in. Make sure to subscribe to this channel and share this video with your friends who might need it. Now, back to today's conversation. The importance of days like this is that we continue to promote what we believe in terms of our story, in terms of our heritage, in terms of what we represent in the world. This is particularly important for me and also for people that are going to listen to this conversation later. Because like most of you already know by now, this room is being recorded and of course is being reproduced in other format, in video specifically, so that people who might not be here just now can have the chance to view it. Most of this video, even though maybe as we are starting, we have only a few persons that are coming to join, but later on, we do have hundreds of people that are viewing it and more are going to view it later on. So this is also the intentionality behind that, in that we are deliberately creating the content that should outlive us. We are not creating content that we are going to consume, all of us. This content are going to outlive us. Even when we are no longer here, they are going to be there. Think, for example, speeches that you listen of Marcus Garvey, of Martin Luther King. Imagine if nobody have taken the time to put those memories down. Nobody will have access to them. So when we talk about those people, we can also listen to their voices, read their comment, hear their feeling. Because when you talk, your emotion transmit it cut across to the person who is listening to you. So there is power in that. So this is why we are really very intentional about what we are doing here, that we are intentionally recording them and proposing them so that people can listen to them. And we hope that even in the time to come, even though technology might change. Of course, I'm looking into the future because that is what I do. I'm about legacy. Even maybe in the time to come, technology might change, but this content is still going to be available. With me, this is opportunity for us to register our name, to say that we are here, to say that this is what we believe, to say that this is what we consider as our value, and this is why we are standing by it. So this is the importance of today's conversation. I thank all of you for joining. For those of you who might not know me, my name is Obehi Ewanfo. I'm originally from Nigeria, but I live in Italy. What I do is that I help entrepreneurs to be able to actually make competition irrelevant in that by honing their story, by being able to leverage the power of their story, they have nobody to compete with. You essentially you establish yourself and nobody is competing with you, because the time that you compete with yourself is when you are trying to do what every other person is doing or play the game according to other people, and maybe sometimes you are also playing it in their own rules, and of course it's obvious that you will continue to compete. But if you were to play the game in your own, play your own game in your own rule, serve your own people, the people who, of course, you have identified, you see that you don't have any competition. I can guarantee you that if you know your story, if you own your story, okay, one thing is to know the story. Another thing is to own it, in that this is your story. Then you don't have any competition, because nobody, I repeat, nobody can compete with you in your world, in your little universe, in your experiences, in your story. So this is what I actually help entrepreneur and also professional to do, in that we really dive deep into their experiences, where they are coming from, where they are, and where they want to go. And at the end of the day, they have a story that they can continue to share with people, with which they can differentiate themselves from the sea of other people that are out there. So this is very fundamental for us. Okay, today we are talking about how to use the power of storytelling for our cultural heritage. So I will start with my big sister, Gloria Tinu, because of course she's doing something really incredibly beautiful within what we are talking about today. Please, Gloria, go ahead and share with the people who you are, the beautiful work that you are doing, of course, and your take in this conversation.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you. Greetings, everybody. And in the Yoruba tradition, I say alafia, which is just another way of wishing you well and inquiring about your well-being. My name is Gloria Tinu Gumbadejo. I'm from Nigeria, the Yoruba culture. I'm an ancestral lineage healing practitioner, an ordained minister, a writer, and I work and support African women ministers who want to add spirituality to their ministry. I also work with Africans generally in the diaspora, looking to bring more harmony and balance and peace in their lives. This is a really interesting topic my brother has brought up, which he does all the time anyway. And I think with cultural erasure, I should say, happens when customs, traditions, and languages of a community are lost or suppressed. And this can occur through colonization, globalization, or even within diaspora communities trying to assimilate into new cultures. We see this a lot. And storytelling has always been a powerful tool for preserving culture, from the oral traditions of indigenous people to the literary works of the African diaspora. Stories capture the essence of communities' identity. Collecting and sharing stories is vital. Interviews with elders can be very potent and effective. This is something I experienced when I recently went home to Nigeria. Just listening to their stories, they take you to places, as stories do anyway, but listening to those rich cultural traditions and experiences of the elders is something that you can't really describe unless you hear it, and then when it's replicated for posterity, it goes a long way. Digital archives and using modern media platforms such as the one we're on now is also extremely effective. I think also one of the things I've realized is that in indigenous communities, I was looking up, doing some research myself, and I saw indigenous communities in North America lost their languages and traditional knowledge. And similarly, African diaspora over time have been losing their cultural practices to fit into new social norms. Enter the power of storytelling. Again, for millennia, storytelling has been the lifeblood of cultural preservation. Oral traditions have passed down laws, values, and history from generation to generation. Stories help maintain languages that might otherwise have become extinct, keeping the unique ways of thinking and expressions alive. Through myths, legends, and folk tales, communities embed their values and social norms, ensuring continuity. And the African diaspora has used music from jazz to hip hop to express cultural identities and histories. Now, with my work, Ancestral Lineage Healing, this can also play a very unique and essential role in the process of preserving cultural erasure, or preventing cultural erasure. Ancestral lineage healing involves connecting with one's roots and addressing intergenerational trauma. This can be achieved through genealogy, research, spiritual practices, and storytelling, which help people and communities reconnect with their heritage. Understanding and embracing our roots can provide a sense of identity and belonging. So important in the world we're living in today. Combining storytelling and ancestral lineage healing can be transformative. Community workshops, educational programs, and the use of media can help integrate these practices, fostering a deeper sense of cultural identity and continuity. We are living in unique times, brothers and sisters, with a lot of trials and tribulations, but also there are many opportunities for change. I encourage you to explore your own cultural stories. Get involved in this preservation efforts. Be curious. Explore what is relevant to your history. Tracing family trees and uncovering ancestral histories, engaging in ceremonies, pilgrimages, and other spiritual practices that honor ancestors is so vital in the world we live in today for us as Africans in the diaspora and all the cultures and traditions. Personal narratives and family stories help heal intergenerational traumas. Addressing intergenerational trauma is essential. Recognizing and discussing past traumas to heal and move forward. Again, I can't emphasize the importance of it. Just looking around us now, hearing what's going on, watching our young people, how they're struggling. They need to hear some of these stories that are different from all the junk that's out there. Things that they will understand they are part of in terms of the stories of their ancestors that run through their own DNA, that will give them courage, make them feel the energy of being a part of something that is unique to them. There are many African American communities going on pilgrimages now and reconnecting with their African roots. They're tracing their genealogy back to African countries, reconnecting with cultural practices. Indigenous communities are restoring traditional ceremonies and a way of healing and preserving their culture. Some of us don't have to make those pilgrimages because we already have knowledge of that. We have that information, but we need to be intentional. We need to decide that we want to actually make the efforts to do the work that will enable us to move forward by drawing from our past. The work that's already been done by the ancestors who we sit on their shoulders now. We can't let them down because they did not let us down. They provided what the the capacity that we have now to do what we're doing, to be here, to be talking, to be doing what we're doing in this room. Again, coming from the Yoruba culture and traditions, that's what I can talk about with more confidence. The Yoruba culture, originating from southwestern Nigeria, is rich with oral traditions, spiritual practices, and vibrant art forms. The language is intentional, as are the traditional practices. For instance, the word oriki, Oriki, it means praise poetry. I don't know if there are any Yorubas in the room. Oriki are poetic verses that honor individuals and ancestors, preserving personal and communal history. When I went home last year to Nigeria, everybody comes from your family history will have a oriki. There'll be poetry about your lineage, where you come from, the child of this, the child of that, the son of that, the grandmother of that, and within that they would describe all the different things, whether they were artisans, they were warriors, they were. So I am a descendant of my lineage, and the elders read my oriki, and even though the language is so deep, just listening to it, what they were saying, I felt, oh my goodness, I felt like it was a privilege to be showered with this oriki. I felt all the what can I say, the cells in my body alive, because I knew, as they were, just like they say names are important. Every time you call your name, you're reawakening something. I was hearing, I could hear the I could hear what my people had been through by their calling the Oriki, and me being a descendant of that. The only way I can describe the feeling is that I was lit up hearing the praise. And every now and then, when I feel low, I remember that experience again. And I can hear that poetry, I can hear those words. These are traditions. And it's what, just even talking about it again now, I feel goosebumps all over me again. That's the power of tradition. It's something that if you come from strong cultures and traditions, to not to honor them, not to reach for them, not to uh, 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 embrace it, is I feel like it's a crime, but even more so now, it's a healing tool, because we need healing on so many levels. If definition is another revered practice that has been misrepresented, it has been corrupted, it has been given all kinds of negative connotations. But in its purest form, Ifa is a traditional Yoruba system of divination that provides spiritual guidance and connects practitioners with their ancestors. Again, if we don't tell our own stories and do our own research, people will speak for us. They will lie on us. They will say things that don't refer to us. And if we don't know our own stories, if we don't make the effort to find out, they will run with it. They have been doing it forever, but it's enough. No, no more. These rooms that we've been having, that Brother Obehi has been providing for us, where we're all putting in energies, where even if you don't speak, I always say, just by being here, you bringing something of yourself, which is powerful. You're putting into that pot, you're putting into that stream, yeah, which is going to flow out. People who listen to the audio room, they're listening to you, even who are not speaking, because you're here. And the fact that you're here, you're bringing something important. You're putting into that that whatever you want to call it, of love, of of power, of energy. And it's really important, honoring ancestors through ceremonies such as, again, something called Egungun festivals, which is a festival of masquerades. They are part of a range of Yoruba healing and cleansing practices. These are all traditions, these are all systems, these are all ways of preventing the erasure of our cultures. There's room to integrate all these traditions into modern spiritual practices and therapies. There's evidence of the spread of African culture through the African diaspora, thereby introducing these practices to new communities worldwide. We are doing great job, brothers and sisters. I thank you for listening to me. I pass the mic on.
Thank you so much, Sister Gloria. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. Of course, I always do because you represent an important voice in the diaspora. This is a calling. This is a calling that we must respond to. And we cannot give this job to another person. We cannot give it to other people, and we cannot postpone it to another time. This is our time. This is our opportunity to be here. We must respond to this call. Okay, maybe some of you have seen a video I just published today. It's a video of an important feeling for me that I haven't shared before. But because I was interviewing a friend of mine who had a similar experience in US, who was almost confirmed dead, and of course, thanks to everything that have happened there, he's alive today. I was interviewing, he was sharing that experience. Then I also shared my own, what have happened to me, how I stayed in coma for 2 weeks, and what I saw there, and why I am really so intentional about the Obehi podcast and everything we are doing here about legacy. Because when I came out from that coma in 2017, I actually described my life as a second chance, which is this is my time for me to be able to do what I really want to do. Because I really have to ask myself the question, if what I'm doing today is the last thing I have to do in this world, would I continue to do it? Of course, those are personal questions to me. I need to respond to them. I'm not like trying to appeal to somebody. I'm not like trying to make somebody feel good. You see, I am talking of being in the hospital, being in a state of coma between life and death. And the thing that I was really wondering about, talking about, thinking, imagining about was this research I was doing about the presence of Africans in northern Italy, which I have been covering for over 10 years. So the question I was asking myself is, what is the sense to this? Why am I doing this? And the message that I got in this period is that I am supposed to do this. So this is not a mistake. This is not something that is random. It is not random. To let you know that it is not random, the first interview I did, actually I did it in Nigeria. I was in secondary school. I have to interview a police inspector in Nigeria as a secondary school boy. You see, like Steve Jobs said, you cannot connect the dots as you are moving forward. You only connect the dot when you are looking backward. That is when you begin to connect it. You begin to understand what have happened to you. I am saying that to me that everything that have happened to us, we need to look at is that there is a sense in it. That we are gathered here today, talking and listening. Don't look at it as a coincidence. Don't look at it as something that is a waste. No, there is a reason for being here today. This is important for us. It is a call that we need to respond to. So Sister Gloria was talking about you're adding your voice to the voices of the people here today. That is struck me. It means that we are adding our voice to the universal consciousness, that today we have decided to honor ourselves and honor what we represent. We are doing this on purpose. We are doing this intentionally. So we don't need to underestimate that. That is power, that we are responding to a call. That is important for me. So this room that we are recording, it is not by chance. This is what we are supposed to do today. And we are supposed to do it every other day that we have the chance to do it. Because you know what? We're not going to be here forever. But what if somebody can listen to your voice after you have gone? All right, now I want to explain the significance of that. You see, I was in primary 2 when I lost my father. Up until this time, I've never really had the chance to listen to my father talk. Okay, my father was not a professor or a politician or somebody who is very famous in the town so that everybody would be recording him and say something about him. He was just an ordinary person. But for me, I would pay any price if I could listen, have a video or an audio of my father just talking. You see, that is personal for me. So I believe that when somebody can have the chance to also listen to you, when you would have grown old, you are 90, 80, even you are no longer here, your children, your grandchildren can, by researching the universe, they can find a record of you saying something. It doesn't matter whether you are the most intelligent person in the room, but for the fact that they can hear you, they can point a hand and say, that is my grandpa. That is my grandma talking there. That is something. You don't want to deny them that chance by not adding your voice to the universal consciousness. So speak up. If the message comes to you, say it. I often say that our heads are antenna. We are receiving signals. If the signal comes to you, don't let it die. Broadcast it. Pass it on. It is important because the moment you pass it on, you add a DNA, you add your own DNA to that message. If you don't pass it on, of course, it's going to bounce up you and go to another place. Maybe some other person is going to respond to it. You are not short-changing the universe. You are only short-changing yourself by not acting on the message. The universe have more than 1,000,000 ways to repropose that information so that another antenna will pick it up. But why not it be you so that you can add your own to it? So thank you all of you for being here. We are intentional here. But I want to thank Dr. Marcia for being here. Why don't you tell the people who you are? That is important. By that, I mean your service. And then what is your take on today's conversation?
Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, and also good night, depending on where you are listening from. I want to start before I introduce myself, Obehi, by saying I did listen to your podcast, your presentation on that. With the experience of both persons, I found it very emotional for personal reasons. I too have had my share. I had an ectopic pregnancy and I found that I was in that position. And so it brought back those types of memories. But the points that were made as it relates to our destiny and understanding ourselves are very applicable to understanding who we are, the nature of our mission and our duty and our purpose. And I feel that cultural erasure threatens that type of being, that type of becoming, that type of existing, as much as the thoughts or being near death does. I'm sorry. I am Dr. Marcia Thomas. I am embedded in storytelling because I believe that when you know your story and when you tell it yourself, you own your worth and you take your control and you embrace your authority in a very authentic and unapologetic way. And so I have written storybooks that have become textbooks for children who tell their story. I represent their story and I use those stories as text for comprehension, for language learning, for phonetic transcription, and for comprehension, problem solving, and critical thinking. And I have three of those: Adventures in Language Arts, book one and two, because my root specialty is in language. I am also an author of other books, but my most recent is A Leader Like You, in which I chronicle my story as a female introverted Christian leader and coach persons on how to identify your assignment, your purpose, your willingness to experience your personality traits and types, and so on, and how to transform those into fulfilling your purpose, which is your mission. And so there is a chapter that talks about being purposefully commissioned, and that is where it culminates all of what transpires in your life and takes you to the fulcrum and the defining moments of your experience is what you're purposefully commissioned to do. And so that is the nature of how I work. And then I am an introverted. I coach introverted, faith based women leaders who feel stuck in their life and career. or confused about the next step, for those reasons, to pivot with power or to create a brilliant new beginning that is embedded in your divine life script. And so I want to make that very clear. And so cultural erasure becomes very important to me. And I speak from the perspective of my allegiance and my blood connection to the African nation as a Caribbean born person. And so we recognize our roots, and I recognize my lineage coming through my grandparents and my great grandparents. And so I want to say, as a fourth generation, I look at cultural erasure as compared over the years from my studies, from my observation, and my personal culture and deliverables that I can't get from my family. And I believe in Marcus Garvey's saying that says a people without the knowledge of their past history, origin, and culture is like a tree without roots. I had to learn those things as a child growing up. Those were important messages to people. And so I speak it so fluently because it's something that I know. And if it is that you do not know who you are and why you are, and your worth and your value, appreciate, know, and love yourself, then you have no confidence at all. And Marcus Garvey says you are twice defeated in the race of life if you have no confidence in yourself. With confidence, you have won even before you have started. And that is the fulcrum of culture. Culture cements you into your origin. It connects you with your purpose and it defines your future. And that is said unapologetically. If you are not au fait with your culture, if you by choice or even by default, if that is taken away from you, then you become an AI robot. An AI is in style where persons take information, transcribe the information, and it's said to be so accurate. But the AI itself tells you that they are not humans, and so they can make mistakes. But where do they get this information from? From persons who appropriate our culture very incorrectly because they have never lived it, they have never experienced it. And I call these people swimmers on land. They have not learned to swim because they have not gotten into the water. You can't tell a man to buckle his shoes if you have not walked it. And when we say try it on, that is just an adage because you have to wear it at least a mile before you actually begin to experience what that man is dealing with. And so, as we talk about culture, I want us to understand that we are responsible for our own story. And when we allow people to silence us, we must not complain when we become marginalized because preventing us from representing ourselves and preventing us from being authentic is not a choice. These people cannot take away your dignity. No one can unless you surrender it. And so even I go back to the story of Roots. I don't know how many of us have ever watched that documentary or followed that serial or read the book. I have bought the book, followed the serial, and I've looked at it over and over because Kia Kent stood, and I watched that movie the first time when I was 12, and it stood inside my spirit in such a marked way that I knew that no one will ever allow me to surrender my dignity, even if there's a gun to my head. And there is a poet that says, it talks about, if we must die, Claude McKay, let it not be like hogs, haunted and penned in an inglorious spot. But we must stand firmly, thinking that we accepting this death because we must die with dignity, we must die with purpose, we must die with meaning. We must leave that legacy that you're talking about to be. And so we must not allow, we must tell our stories, and we must tell it. Even sometimes we cannot write our stories, but the deeds that we do live after us. Nelson Mandela is one of those greatest men who both wrote, but those who experienced him had no choice but to tell the story of their experience, because he represented his culture and himself, the confidence he had in himself, so eloquently, that you, even those who oppressed him and suppressed him and tried to kill him, had to be speaking about him and have to be saying these qualities have to be suppressed. And every time they made an effort, it could not be. Why am I emphasizing this? I am emphasizing this because culture is so important. And as we live out our daily traditions, our beliefs, how we eat, how we dress, why we hold the core values we hold, why we believe in these types of things, why we choose our path, why we establish ourselves, how we show up, and what we bring to the table, we understand the power of stories and who we are and what they can do when we allow these narratives, these traditions, these patterns, these habits, these thoughts to be suppressed or marginalized. We disappear alongside with it, and our children's futures, our generation, slowly and gradually becomes alliterated, even if they are living, because they live a fake life. They have become AI imposters because they really don't know who they are or what they mean, and they become so lost that they embrace all sorts of traditions or those that they feel familiar with, but they continue to have a sense of emptiness, and become lost and become compromisers, because the unique perspective, the knowledge, and the traditions of their generation is so foggy, or has been so subtly removed from their minds, that they seem to be reformed. And so they forget important events in their lives, the important figures in their generation that are very significant for a particular culture, because within every culture, there is a subculture called family tradition, family routine, family culture, where families know and celebrate certain things using the same cultural artifacts, but in their unique ways. And so we discourage persons when we silence their contributions, and we suppress their perspective when we censure them, and when we make them feel ashamed of who they are and how they carry it in the diaspora. It is very important that we recognize this connection and become very intentional about preserving the culture, so we can be safe, so we can be authentic, so we can amplify our voices, so we can feel supported, so we can combat shame and combat marginalization and combat what would I call it now? Combat condescension, and combat uh interdependence, being totally solely dependent on those who we allow to become our masters, so we can leave an honorable legacy for our children, so we can enrich their lives, and so our collective resilience can be preserved and built, and we can stand honorably and unapologetically regardless of our state, because your state of being is not your state of mind. Your spirit and your strength comes from within, and nothing can defeat you if you focus on your destination. The struggles, the hurdles, the challenges, the attempts to suppress any human being who understands his or her mission or purpose is a defeated one. No one can take, I continue to say, your dignity unless you voluntarily give it up. So even under great duress, your core value, the one that keeps you standing when all else fall, When everything is shaken, that one value that you hold very dear is because of where you started and the impact that it left on you and how well you fortified it in your spirit. When we allow persons to erase everything that belongs to us, then we own nothing, not even ourselves. Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you so much for that, Dr. Matia. Thank you so much. I really feel that so deeply. I really feel that so deeply. I'm happy that this room is being recorded so that we can rewatch it. You see, every time I listen to this episode, it really come to me as a confirmation that we are supposed to be doing this. Now, this is what I mean. When I came to Verona in the August of 2004, actually, this is how I started this research project that led to the 5-part book series, The Storytelling Mastering, and therefore the episode that we are doing today on LinkedIn. What I was simply looking for at the time was to maybe find books or anything that can tell me about the experiences of other people like me in this city. Because it's pretty natural for me that I will have some questions because I am coming from Nigeria and I know how life is in Nigeria. And immediately I can see that life is not the same. I can see that the people that I'm seeing around are not the same. So it is natural for me, like I just have curiosity, like, but how do people really live here? You can start from the weather. They look at the people. They look at the question they ask you. It is impossible that you don't ask question. It is impossible. So, but I couldn't find answer to the questions I was asking. That is how I just picked my small camera, very small, like a telephone at the time. Then I just entered into the street. I was talking to people. Now, but where did that boldness even come from? I don't know. It's like maybe when I was in Nigeria, like I was saying, I came from secondary school one day. And we just finished a lesson and we talked about habeas corpus law. For those of you in law, maybe I don't know if that is how you refer to it, but essentially it's talking about a situation where maybe the police arrest you for anything and they can't find any charges against you that they're not supposed to hold you for 24 hours. And as a young student now in the school, we were taught that during the day. When we finish, of course, usually we'll go to the library to study them before we go home. And so I was curious. I said, okay, let me go to the police station because who else can I ask? Okay, I do like to go to the court to listen because I'm just curious. I like to listen. So this day, I went to the police station to ask. I want to talk to the DPO. They were like, oh, are you a poster man? Like I was going to deliver a letter. I said, no, I need to talk to the DPO. As I was talking, the DPO actually walked out. Then he saw me talking with one of the policemen. He said, allow him to come. So I went there and I then interviewed him because I prepared my question, which I did with him. That was my very first interview. So when I came to Verona and I find myself in the same situation, wanting to learn more about the people that I found, that some of them look like me, for me, it was natural. So I just take my little camera, I just enter. I talk to somebody, but I don't even know who I'm going to talk to, but it doesn't bother me. I talk to the first person, then he linked me to another person. I know somebody who we came together, somebody who have been like this. Then I will get a lead. From that, I will move to the next person. From that, I will move to the next person. I did it for a lot of years, and I gather a lot of information. And most importantly, I grow in that I learn. I learned everything from how to do a professional interview, from learning how to pick up a telephone and secure. Now, I'm talking about a country that is not my own, that I will pick up a telephone and I ask a lecturer at the university that I want to come and interview you. I'm not going to interview him in English. I'm going to interview him in Italian. And because I'm going to do this, it is natural for me to also improve my Italian because I want to talk for myself. So I'm saying now that by trying to document the story of people, I am also growing. So I think this is a kind of a privilege for even to be able to do this. I am really, really very happy about this. Talking of what this could mean, you see, my son was born here. He's going to school here. Of course, he's still pretty young. My son is 6, going to 7 now. He doesn't understand. Okay, he's understanding a little bit, but he's going to get to a point that he's going to ask the same question I'm asking. But what is the difference? There is a difference. The difference is that my son is going to find document that is going to use to analyze the situation, unlike me. So this is importance in that when we go to the forest, we are taking steps, we leave a mark for the next person that is going to come after you. Because if you don't leave a mark, when the next person is coming, the person is going to make the road for the first time. And what if we are making road every first time? We will never go anywhere. Unlike maybe when you come, you see a footpath. A footpath is an evidence that that road has been traveled before. Somebody have already asked this question before. So you literally take those answers, those transcripts, then you analyze it, then you move forward. You don't go back again to start asking those same questions. Those are the importance of documenting our experiences, of intentionally saying that we are here. So that for the next people that are going to be here, they will know that other people like them have been here. So that the question, therefore, is how have they been here? What have they been doing? What did they do? It's up to them to make the sense out of whatever they find. But for us, we must make sure that we leave a mark that we are here right now.
What you meant by your comments, what you said. But I have an observation that I would like to say too. You see, sometimes the culture itself is not really erased. So that's why we need to prevent cultural erasure. I would like to start with the point that every family in every country where they grow up, that's their culture. They grow up with it, like me, a Filipino. So I grew up in my country with my own culture, with my own religion, with my own beliefs, with my own traditions, and all those things. So in every country, all the people have to, make sure that their upbringing, their roots will grow with them till the end. But then again, as time goes by, people from everywhere started to think of transferring to other places because of that proverbial saying which says they have to go for greener pastures, or they have to find somewhere where the lives will be better. So in that case, supposedly, if that family complete with his children and the whole family, complete with their cultural heritage with them, bringing along with them, went to another country, and that country has its own culture. So is it not because they are there? They were not asked to go there. They were there on their own volition. They applied, so they must adhere to the new country's culture. So by and by, it's not really actually erasing it, but these people are adjusting to the new norms and culture of that place. Or else, well, they will be displaced. They will be told to go back. It's like the saying which says that when you are in Rome, be a Roman. So in this case, we don't need to prevent because that's their own volition. I mean, that family went outside and in a different places because they wanted to start on their own. I don't think that they forget the roots where they came from, but then at that point in time where they live in another city, there's another culture which is looming or which is growing within the family. So in that case, you said a displacement, a diaspora, but I don't think we need to prevent because that person who transferred there in his own volition wanted to change his new culture. I that's my 10 cents worth of perspective. Thank you very much.
I think it's a great highlight, Charito. I think you have highlighted some important points. I find though that persons who migrate by volition, and I'm going to give you an example. My members of my mother's sibling set, there were 15 of them in one family, born to her mother and her father. And in their later years, they decided that they needed to migrate, some of them, to make life better. But one brother, the oldest, migrated and took along with him over time four other brothers. There were seven brothers. And he took along with them four. But what happened is that where he came to live in New Jersey at the time, they were able to acquire residence beside each other over time. So you live with him, and then you acquire something near to him, maybe two houses down and so on. So what they found is that when they settled with their wives and began to have children, they were able to leave their children with their family. They didn't have to really acquire a babysitter. But adopting to the culture of the United States, they adopted those things that were patterns and routines and not traditions. They never embraced the traditions of the country, because that's the difference. Culture refers to your traditions and your genetic practices and what defines you as a nation. And so adopting to the routines of and the patterns of the country that you voluntarily migrate, it does not change your tradition. So civics, for example, on one of their holidays, maybe the 1st of July or on the Thanksgiving, they would be using turkey. If, for example, they don't use turkey, they would use what they would use in their tradition. So if it is chicken and rice and peas, that's what they would do in their tradition. They would not use the turkey, but they are celebrating Thanksgiving, but they are using their traditional artifacts. And so we don't have to change our traditions to become a part of the routines and patterns and habits of a culture. We can fit in very nicely, very peacefully, very amicably. We can adapt and reflect, and we can make those cultural artifacts that they hold dear become a part of our cultural artifacts, in the sense that we integrate those parts that are compulsory, and we make sure we substitute those parts that are voluntary and open to always bring us back to the base, our core, and what our artifacts are. Because I find that no matter how far away you go from it, you will never go so far enough that you forget where you're coming from. I find that that is impossible. So even unless we have a brain loss or some brain damage. And so we have to guard against voluntarily, as I said, releasing and surrendering those things that make us unique and original, for those things that will bring us peace in our mind and guaranteeing our contentment. Because sometimes these are imitations, because we can only be happy when we know, we love and accept who we are. And that's true happiness if we're talking about it. We can be successful, of course, and we can continue on the path of being significant. But the significance cannot, we find that there are always gaps and there are always openings, and there is always something that eludes us when we are not sure of who we are. True significance means that we are present with everything about us and with everything that we are.
Thank you so much for that, Dr. Matia. Thanks to all of you that have heard the position till now, because there was a problem with my computer. It just decided to restart at this moment where I don't even know what to say about that. So I'm really sorry that that happened. But anyway, thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Matia, that you have held the position till this point. Anyway, actually, there was some thought that was floating in my head as I was listening to Carito. I don't know if I pronounced the name correctly. Anyway, there was a lot of value in what you said there. They are really highly, highly important conversation. They are the kind of conversation that really should be encouraged, because it trouble the room a little bit, so that we can talk more, we can learn, because by talking, we learn. But it's also deep in that it touches an important part of the entire conversation when we are talking about the particular argument of the day, which is the cultural erasure. Now, there are different approaches to it. There are different approaches to the conversation. I can talk, for example, of the information that I've been gathering here in Italy, in northern Italy, looking at the different immigrant experience here. At one point, I was also of the opinion that immigrants that find themselves in Italy, because migrating for Africa or for Nigeria to migrate to Italy is different from a Nigerian migrating to UK or US. In that, if you migrate to US or UK, you don't need to relearn everything in terms of the language, because language is a window for the culture. Because for you to be able to interact with the people, you need to understand the language. Because language helps you to understand also the feeling of the people. When they say certain thing, this is what it means. In Italy, for example, you don't understand the language. You need to learn it before you'll be able to understand what the people are telling you. So, in my opinion, it would be very good that an African that migrate to Italy understand the Italian language so that you can talk for yourself. But there is a lot of dimension to the question, no? In that it doesn't mean now that because you want to be able to live in peace with the people that you have come to meet, in this case now looking at the Italian, or maybe whatever you might find yourself, you don't have to lose yourself, because we are talking from a historical situation that have manifested a number of occasions. Because there are situations that are natural that just resolve themselves also naturally, but there are situations that are not natural. The deliberate attempt to make sure that other people forget their culture, it is not natural. It have happened a number of occasions. It's a historical fact, at least as far as Africans are concerned. I don't know of Asia, but of course, if we were to go inside to investigate it, we also see that, because the people who want to dominate other need to make an effort to diminish their integrity, their dignity, so that it is easy for them to dominate over them. This has been a deliberate attempt. This is not an attempt. This is not something that happened because somebody moved from a location to another location. For you to be able to integrate with other people or interact with other people, you need to learn their culture and therefore able to mimic them and live like them, which is what the chameleon usually would do. That is a different scenario. The scenario that we are trying to discourage here is the deliberate attempt to cancel out the other. Because what have happened historically is that there have been a deliberate attempt to cancel out some other so that they can be easily manipulated. But if it is a question of being able to integrate, interact, and do business and work together and live in a country, obey the law, the custom, and all of that, we are not discouraging that at all. But do not lose yourself. That is an essential point. It is very, very important. Again, I want to thank all of you for being here. I don't know, Dr. Martin, if you are still here, if you wanted to say something before you leave, because I understand that you are leaving. Of course, we have already spent more than 1 hour here. Please go ahead and say something in the conclusion of your intervention here.
I just want to thank everybody for attending and for allowing us to share our thoughts and give of our best. And I want to say that regardless of where you are, always be true to yourself. If you are true to yourself, you cannot be false to any man. So even whatever you choose to do, it must be your choice. It must not be that you lend yourself or give yourself to be prisoners or servants to anyone. It must be a voluntary choice, because your dignity can never be taken away unless you surrender it. And so I say, whatever you choose to do with all your might, heart, and soul, it must be something that you understand and are willing to accept whatever consequences may come. In the meantime, never voluntarily or forcefully give up your origin, who you are, where you're from, and who you have left behind, because they are the foundation of who you have become, and who you are becoming, and will always be the reference point of anything that you have achieved in life. Always be the reference point, because if they had suppressed you or taken you out of commission, you would not be present to even look back, even though you are moving forward. Let us be cognizant of that. I thank you all again, I say, for allowing me to share. and for being a part of this Obehi. I always appreciate you for including me in this collaboration. And I always learn from persons, especially those who are brave enough to come on stage. Charito, worthy to hear from you. I think you
Thank
always
you.
have something to share. And
Thank
then
you so
John
much.
and all those who have shared, we thank you, Jason, for always giving something unique and original. You know who you are and whose you are. That is very clear. And your roots have a great impression on you, which is extremely important for who you have become. Greatness lies in having confidence in self and knowing that with confidence you have won before you even start. Have a great day, everyone. Sorry, I have to go. I have another session. God bless you all.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mancia. That is incredibly beautiful. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Thank you. Oh, of course, we are moving towards the conclusion just now, but I just want to add, in relation to what I was saying before, that I remember, for example, I was actually presenting the second book in the project, The Journey, Africans in Verona, the second book in The Color of Our Children. Of course, that was talking about discrimination in the Italian school system, looking at the episode that have happened to African or the children of African living in Italy. So at the time, I was saying, in fact, I had to make an argument talking about the value of interculture or the importance of being able to coexist with other people. In that society actually become better when you can incorporate other value into that society instead of just saying it is monocultural, which is, I think that is what one of the prime minister, okay, now he's late, Prime Minister Berlusconi was saying at the time that Italy is a monocultural society. He was wrong. It is not true. Italy is not a monocultural society. There is no society in the world that is actually monocultural, except that society do not have the possibility of interacting with other human beings, which of course I found very difficult in any part of the world. Now, a good example would be to look at countries like the United States or UK, where you have people that are bringing in different resources from other parts of the world, and it's making their country to grow better, bigger, and always able to expand. Now, I wanted to get a picture of a pond. A pond is a water reserve, or maybe a place where water there is water, but the water is not flowing out. Now, the water that is not flowing out, because that water is not much alive because there is nothing that is happening there. What made the water very energetic is that there is inflow and outflow. That makes it a little troubling. That makes it really very vibrant, as it were. That is how also the society is. We have different value that we are bringing in together. Sometimes, I understand, sometimes that value can crash. But just because it crashed doesn't mean it's a bad thing that we have different people living together. In the history of Africa, for example, whether you are looking at the ancient Egyptian society or looking at ancient Malian society, because Malian society in the 12th century, bigger than the whole of Western Europe, meaning that it was not actually a monocultural society. But how were the people able to live with different languages, different culture, different way of life? Because Africa is not a monocultural society. All of us are coming from different reality. But how do we manage to live together in a society like that of the 12th century Malian Empire or the Egyptians, for example, who have different people coming to mingle all the time? It is because when different people are coming, you have what you would naturally call, maybe for example, in a road, a confluence. A confluence in a place where the different roads are meeting. That is usually where you have life. Where in the junction where two things meet is where you have spark. The junction, if you look at how the society are built, where people will settle down to sell is where people meet. But that meeting point is also where conflict happen. Because conflict happen, they will also resolve peace. And because we have resolved and we make peace, life is more there than in a straight road where you are not stopping. So the human society is always better, more beautiful when we are having a mixture. To make my argument, at the time, 2015, I tell people to reflect on an artwork. An artwork can be a piece of music, for example. Now, when you take a piece of music, you will look at it, okay, yeah, I see it, fine. But what if you take it down and really break it down? You will see that that music you are listening to, even though it is 1 second, is made up of different elements. Okay, let me use another example. A piece of art like a painting. You see, the painting you are seeing might appear very beautiful in your eyes. Yes, actually, it's beautiful. But what if we deconstruct it? It is when we deconstruct the painting on the wall that you begin to see that it's actually made up of different elements. The form, the color, the different shape that are put together to make up the paint. If you look at all of them as a unison, as one picture, one thing that you see, or what you should see, is that there is a contradiction. Contradiction, we often see it as a negative, but it's also a good thing because it holds things together. It is because of that contradiction that life is actually beautiful. In that you take a red paint, you write on a white piece of paper, then you add a little bit of blue, a little bit of white, a little bit of yellow. That is what makes it beautiful. Because if you take a red pen, write on a red piece of paper, I can guarantee you that you're not going to see anything because there is no contradiction. What if we take the argument to another level? If you take a camera to take a picture, there is what you call focus. You see, the logic of focusing is that the focusing starts to happen at the point of intersection, at the point of conflict, therefore, at the point of change of the different color temperature. Because if you start what I'm saying, take your camera, point it at a flat surface, maybe where everything is white or everything is yellow, everything is green, you will see that your camera will not be able to focus because it doesn't find the edge. It doesn't find the conflict zone. It doesn't find the confluence, the intersection between two lines, between two different colors, therefore. So I am saying that the human society is more beautiful when we can have all of us together. But we should never lose ourselves. We must know that I am a little bit of red, but I can collaborate with a little bit of white. Then we can have a bit of yellow and a bit of green among us. It is not a confusion. But I don't need to lose my black now to become white so that everything can be good. No, that is wrong. It means we are going to be poor now. For us to be rich, we need to accept that inside this component, there is a little bit of a triangle, there is a little bit of a square, there is a little bit of rough edges. When we put all of it together, we become beautiful. So it is not that we are against. We are against the deliberate attempt to erase that black so that it becomes white instead of black. I hope that is very clear. And I want to thank all of you again for the time because we have spent about 1 hour, 20 minutes here. And I appreciate each and every one of you. If there is any person that wants to learn more about storytelling or how to apply it either in your business or in any other area, because storytelling is a powerful instrument. I think it is the most powerful instrument that we have. That is why we have it all across. So if you are in business or you are a professional, you want to leverage the power of storytelling in your work and you need help, I am available. Reach out to me, send me a DM, let's talk. I am available to be able to help in shaping that. And of course, we are here every 14 days. So another 14 days from now, we'll be here again to talk about storytelling. And in this particular session, we're talking about the diaspora storytelling. And of course, we have another room where we talk about business storytelling. That is a different conversation altogether. So thank you very much, everyone. Please come around again next week or next 2 weeks from now.